My favorite thing about the medical industry is that if you want to, if you have any crazy issues that isn't obvious, like, oh, I broke my arm, x ray, you see it's broken, put a cast on, whatever. If it's anything that requires a lot of testing and trial and error and work through, I noticed that it seems you have to become your own doctor because, from what I've seen, doctors, doesn't matter what kind, will try one or two things, maybe three, and they're just kind of like, yeah, I don't know. I had these health issues, like some of them my whole life, my whole adult life at least. One of them was chronic rhinosinusitis, and it gets worse when the temperature gets above like 90 degrees regularly, and getting to that point around here, so it starts flaring back up, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. I got to figure something out. So me and ChatGPT go on a deep dive on all these symptoms, trying to piece things together, and it was like, oh well, you've already been to multiple ENTs and allergy doctors. Like, it could be from your migraines. I was like, that's weird because I get migraines with aura, but I don't get the actual like headaches very often. I was at the time actually getting them more often because I train jujitsu, so the pressure and intensity and stuff caused that to happen a lot. And one of the there's a supplement protocol for migraines, and one of them was 400 milligrams of B2. And I did that, and I had this pressure in the front of my head just always, all the time. It is sometimes worse than others, but it's never completely gone. And I feel like that was sitting behind the rhinosinusitis, so it was kind of like a compounding effect. But for the first time ever, when I took this 400 milligrams of B2, I just felt the relaxation in the front of my head. And I was just like, oh. And my mood was better, my sleep was better, everything was trending up. And I'm like, holy shit, like, I'm almost 40 here, and this is something I've been dealing with my whole life. And I've been to so many doctors, so many different types of doctors, but just me sitting here with AI trying to work through it, we're able to figure it out in a couple hours. But then I took it a step further. I somehow came across the MTHFR. I might be pronouncing that wrong. I don't remember which order the letters are actually in. Gene where it messes up your whole methylation process, and basically your body just doesn't produce enough energy. And in a nutshell. And I was like, well, maybe I have that because the B2 worked so well. So one of the things people use for that is a methylated B complex for undermethylator. So I took that, and then it was like that same effect, but even better. And I had way more energy. I could focus better. My mood was better. I wasn't as hungry. It was like halfway through a meal, I'd be like, I'm kind of done. Like, I don't want to eat anymore. And it was amazing until it wasn't. So after like 2 weeks or so, I started getting manic to where I had highs and lows, but I was getting fewer highs with the that were smaller, and then more lows that were longer, and it was kind of trending down in effect. And then I had a couple of days that were just I was super depressed for like no reason. And then it got to a point where like I wanted to just like end myself. Like I was just like I don't want to be here anymore. And it was crazy. It took me a while to piece it together. I thought it was being triggered by like something going on in my life, but no, it was just I basically overshot. I over course corrected. So I went from too much of something, or too little of something, to too much of something, and then there's always a Goldilocks zone. So I was dealing with the consequences. Luckily, once I stopped it, it immediately I felt better. Not like 100%, but like maybe 80%, like just in one day. So obviously after a couple of days, it was just like a memory. But it was kind of crazy because if I didn't like stop taking it, like I don't know, man, things would have got weird. So my dumbass forgot that I did the 23andMe a long time ago, and I had access to my raw genetic data. So I upload that into Prometheus, I think it's pronounced, and basically it'll give you like, it'll show all your genes and then give you like info on all of them. So I found out I didn't have the MTHFR. I hope I'm doing that right, or I might not be. Allele to where it completely tanks your methylation, but I had one of the alleles, so basically I was like 30 to 40% nerfed. So from there, I actually had switched to Claude because ChatGPT was just getting on my nerves. Like, it was being very like, I don't know. I was like, give me what I want. Like, stop trying to tell me don't do this and don't do that. Like, it was kind of doing this, like, assuming that I was asking like a leading questions instead of just like answering the fucking question. So I switched to Claude and actually had it go through my whole genome, which, you know, people are gonna be like, oh, your private information, you uploaded that to Claude and anybody can see it. It's like, well, what the hell are they gonna do with that information? Like, make a clone of me? Whoop-de-woo. They're gonna make a clone of me and replace me, and then that's not my problem, that's y'all's problem. I'd rather try to, you know, get answers and get healthy if I can. So anyways, upload that through Claude, and it was like, so it told me basically what I just told you with the whole partial gene thing, but then it said that it was missing some things in that report, and I should use this other service called Gene Genie or something like that, Genetic Genie maybe. And so pull that, send that over, and then basically with that information it was able to tell me exactly what happened and why I experienced what I experienced. It was kind of complicated, like I don't really understand it, but it was kind of like what I said, where basically my body was low on B12 and folate for like my whole fucking life, and then it got full of B12, but it couldn't, there's like 3 different kinds, and one can turn into the other 2, but the other 2 only stay one way. So basically one thing was overloaded, and then at some point, you know, the first 2 weeks were great, but then there was like a rebound effect because it burned through some other chemicals in the process that are part of that. So that was interesting because it was just exactly that. And then I had to like go over all my genes stuff, or like go over my genes, look for anything like I should be aware of or should consider and stuff. And then gave me supplement advice based on that. For example, there's another gene mutation where I was taking TMG, which should be helping, but it doesn't because of this one genetic thing I have going on. So now that doesn't work. Well, it doesn't work as well. So it was like choline would work better. So I got that down. I still am seeing a doctor and stuff, but this is great because I'm able to do a bunch of research beforehand, before I go to the doctor, and get, you know, clear answers and take advantage of the appointment, because you see him for like, you know, 10 minutes and he's trying to get in and out, or her, and it's hard to like go over like a bunch of stuff. And what's interesting too is with that genetic stuff and then other symptoms I had, it was able to tell me that I also have this mast cell activation issue, which I also align with to a T, which is funny because for the other MTHFR thing, if you go over the symptoms for under a methylator, I had all of those things, like, and the doctors I talked to knew that, but it just never came up. I'm glad I remembered finally that I had my genetic material and I was able to actually look at that. But anyways, so I had this mast cell activation thing that's like an issue too, and gave me some supplement advice for that. So one of the things that sucks with that is heat intolerance, and I train jiu-jitsu, so there was times where I'd be training, and especially if I go in kind of cold, or maybe my first round is just really intense, maybe it's like a really good guy or a competition guy or something, and I would like feel like I'm overheating, and it would feel like I'm gonna die. Like and I thought it was just like me being a bitch this whole time. I was just like, oh my god, bro, you're not gonna die, but it would feel that way, and I would start to like panic, and I'd have to like try to talk myself down, and I was literally in the middle of the round, I'd be like not moving, just trying to move as little as possible while I try to like get over this like hurdle. And Claude's like, yo, like, that wasn't you being a bitch. That was literally your body telling you something's wrong. And basically, it was like during exercise, there's this flood of like histamines or something, and then it caused all these issues. And apparently, there was a time where I went into anaphylactic shock and didn't even know it, because it was there was nothing environmental. It was exercise related. So went to a competition class, and I had an asthma attack, which I get like exercise induced asthma from time to time, but I just breathe, focus on my breathing, and eventually goes away. It's fine. Like, I don't even need an inhaler. I have one, but I literally almost never use it. So I had that, and then I trained a little longer. On the drive home, I noticed it was like I had trouble like keeping my head up for some reason, like while I'm driving. And then I threw up in my lap, which was cool. And then when I came home, I had trouble keeping my head up, and I laid on the floor for like an hour or two maybe, and then I was still like sweating and stuff for a while. And then eventually I was like back to normal, and it was just, everything was fine. I was like just kind of like, oh, that's weird. And when I tried to Google before, I didn't really get great answers. It was mostly like, oh, like maybe heat stroke, heat exhaustion, something like that. And Claude was like, no, that's not what that was. It was like because of this mast cell thing, you had like a anaphylactic shock, and it was like, you need to bring an EpiPen with you when you go to jiu-jitsu now, because that's not good. And I'm like, oh, snap. So this, really long story, finally figuring stuff out. But something to keep in mind is, like, all of these symptoms related to this stuff is stuff I've had for like my whole life, and I've talked to multiple doctors and all these tests and all these things, and I've done some stuff that helped a little bit here and there, but never got to the root cause. It was literally me having to do my own research and leverage AI, luckily, to figure things out. So, like, if I would have went to my doctor and told him what happened, who knows? Maybe they would have been figured out at that point too with a B complex and my reaction, but. It is crazy to think about. Like, I had other health issues too that got figured out later, and my entire 20s were a complete wash. Like, the best years of my life where I should be, at my athletic peak, and I should be, working my way up in the world and whatnot. It was just spent, like, feeling miserable and being depressed all the time and being in denial about it, and just not a good time. And then as I got older, I started to make lifestyle changes, which help, eating healthier and stuff like that. And, over time, I add these little supplements here and there, and I get that little bit extra, feeling better, but never 100%. Like, I've always had trouble sleeping. I've always had brain fog and things like that. And then, because when I first took the B complex, I literally cried. I was so happy because I was like, oh, I finally figured it out. This was before, the the bad things. It was like when I first took it, because I would immediately feel the effects, like immediately feel this pressure in my head just kind of subside. And I was just like, oh my God, thank God, finally, after all this time. And yeah, it's just crazy to think about. Like, you have to be your own doctor, and you have to take charge of your own health. Otherwise, like, if you have an appeal to authority and you're just like, oh, the doctor knows better, you're going to probably have a rough time, because they're not going to put in the same amount of work you are, which is funny, because also when I was younger, I had a court case, and I handled myself pro se, and the public defenders and stuff kept trying to talk me out of, like, oh, the judge isn't going to listen to you because, you're not a lawyer. And I was like, well, he has to listen to me. Like, I don't know what you mean. And I did, like, pretty good for someone. Like, I did a lot of research. I learned the whole process and some case law and stuff like that, and I just did my thing. And I did more than any lawyer ever would, because they just want to make a plea deal and get it over with. Like, I actually, fought as best I could, and a lawyer would never have done that. They would have been like, here's the deal, take it or leave it. So I say a lot to say, like I said before, you really need to take charge of your own health, And definitely now, like, leverage AI, like make an account of all your systems or symptoms and timelines and all that, because the better the data you feed it, the better the result you get. So I was able to feed it like a ton of data over, like, the course of my whole fucking life. And I was able to give it my labs and then my genetic stuff, and it was able to tell me, like, it paint a clear picture, and it wasn't even like, oh, it could be this or it could be that, because you ever talk to a doctor like, oh yeah, it could be this, could be that. It was very like, it's definitely probably this based off your symptoms. It could also be this, but here's why I don't think it's this, because you also had this reaction or whatever. So it's just kind of crazy how, like, that's how it is. But I know there's people out there that'll go to the doctor and just take whatever prescription, and that's the other thing. People take prescriptions and they don't really pay attention to what the side effects are and stuff like that. Like, if you know what the side effects are and you take it, you would know if you're getting a side effect. But if you don't pay attention when the pharmacist tries to tell you, or you don't read the bottle or whatever, then how are you going to know? Because it could be something more subtle, or something that doesn't seem like it's related. I don't know, man, but I am so happy that I think I finally figured this shit out, and I can I basically have been nerfed by 30 to 40% my whole life. And like I said, I'm almost in my 40s, so if I could just, at least get a little bit closer to 100% now, then that's awesome. Because, I mean, it'd be great if I had that back in my 20s, but, better now than never. That's all I say. See you on the next one.